I would say to myself, sometimes I was so scared to dream big because I didn't want to fail in the dream. I didn't want to not get the dream. So I would say to myself, allow yourself to dream huge, not big, huge. Just go for it. Because if you cannot imagine it, you cannot become it.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Wow. Today's guest is an exceptional human who has unreal compassion, empathy, and kindness. I was simply blown away. Marianna has such a nice, well-rounded, positive, and insightful mindset on life and moving forward. It was such a treat to chat with Marianna, and I took so much out of it. It's one of those conversations that leave you smiling afterwards. So let's get into it and officially introduce today's guest. Marianna Burelli is an actor and environmentalist. She has recently made her US debut this year in Disney's Channel's highly anticipated original series Ultraviolet and Black Scorpion. The comedy series follows Violet, an everyday Mexican-American teen who is chosen by a magical luchador mask which transforms her into Ultraviolet, a superhero fighting crime. Marianna shines on the show as Nina, Violet's mother, who is kept in the dark about her daughter's superhero powers, and is also the principal of a middle school who masterfully juggles both responsibilities. Marianna may be best known in Latin America for her dramatic portrayal of Natalia Velasco for 3 seasons in the hit series Paramedicos. Her additional television credits include Netflix, Ingobernable, and please excuse my pronunciation, La Jenni Que Yo Conocí. On the film front, Marianna also starred as Marcela in the 2018 comedy Loca Por El Trabajo. Her portrayal earned her the prestigious Best Up-and-Coming Actress Award. She also appeared in the 2017 feature How to Break Up With Your Douchebag, which became Mexico's highest-grossing comedy upon release. When Marianna isn't on set filming, she uses her voice and talent to fight for environmental justice. She's also the co-creator of Amai, a 100% natural, sustainable, and plastic-free cosmetics line available in Mexico and the US. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, such as how Marianna became an EMT, being an established star in Mexico and then moving to LA, her sustainable business, Hollywood mind games, identity and belonging, teachers and mentors, living in Swaziland at 15, and learning to relax again. Also, before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I find it adds a new element and dynamic to these chats. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. This could be an interesting place to start. I don't know what the correct term is, but I know that when you were working in Mexico, I heard you on another podcast talk about this amazing story. I think that a lot of people that are paramedics in Mexico are volunteers. And you actually are a qualified paramedic, or you've done a course along those lines. Is that true? And please tell me all about it.
It is true. It is true. I became a formal EMT in Mexico after filming Paramedicos season 1. So I became so fascinated and obsessed with the work that they did and they do every day in the crazy streets of Mexico City, which are like crazy little places. And by little, I mean huge. And then I decided, together with the director at the time and one of my friends who was also an actor in the show, we were like, okay, let's do it. And one of the guys in the Paramedicos, in the Red Cross, that was kind of guiding us through the whole filming of season 1, said, listen guys, I feel like you guys have potential, and if this is something that excites you, let's do it. I mean, it can only help, it will never hurt you to have all this knowledge and to be able to help people. And you can come to the Red Cross and do the turns or like the service rounds if you want to, but you don't have to, So we were super hyped after season 1, and so we did it. And we spent 6 months going to school at Red Cross.
Wow.
In Mexico, like literally learning how to do this. And we graduated and we became what's called EMTs, like basic. You have like basic, intermediate, and advanced. So we're basic, but we are qualified. And in fact, when in Mexico City in 2017, there was this big earthquake, you probably remember, all of us went immediately to the Red Cross to put ourselves at service. Like, what do we have to do? And it was crazy. It was really mind blowing to see all you can do when you have, not such an extensive amount of knowledge. It's kind of like a very concise, useful knowledge that I believe should be taught at schools, because we learn so many things that we never ever use and never will. And then you have that I've used and I've put into practice so many times since 2013 till now, which is not such a long time. I have been able to use those, techniques and that knowledge so many times.
Wow. First of all, that's crazy, and good on the Mexican people that people just want to do that. But also, typically after you've been shooting and you would have done it for a while, you just want to like relax or do something else. But you actually went back to like learning, which I think is amazing. Like, that's kind of rare. A lot of people just want to relax. It would have been hectic filming it, but not you. You were very driven and obviously took a lot out of that experience as well.
Yeah. It's kind of like I am coming to terms with relaxing. It wasn't a thing that I used to do a lot. There's this sense of like, you have to do more, you have to learn more. And I love learning. That's one of my biggest, most top things. But I have learned after having a baby that resting and taking time off and, going on vacation, and it's super vital to be able to be ready for the next project, to be able to, like reconnect with yourself, with your body, with, check in with your spiritual being, how you feel, how what's your state of mind, what's your emotional state, check in on everybody, because I find that this work is so demanding once you are, on set, that you kind of disappear out of everybody else's world and sometimes out of your own world, which is sort of strange.
Now, we talk a lot about burnout and kind of having tunnel vision and a laser-like vision when one's an actor, because, that's the nature of the business, but it can be all consuming. And typically, as I said, a lot of people have had to deal with burnout. And when you come off a project, your days can be really long. It can be quite overwhelming when you go from doing something all the time and then not doing it at all, or you get a bit of a break, and it can take away from your sense of identity and who you are. And every single person on this podcast has had a different or unique experience, but it's so awesome that you talk about how you learning how to relax, because that actually makes you stronger as a human, but also within the industry, able to like deal with all the challenges that come with, being in the industry.
Yeah. And I think that you just said something super important, Michael, which is you lose that sense of identity, right? Because it's like Marianna is an actor. So when Marianna is not acting, Marianna is nobody, or Marianna is a mom. And when she's not in the role of her mom, of motherhood, then she's nobody. And, that kind of like, we put everybody on a little pigeonhole, right? We
like labels.
Yeah. Little boxes with big labels. and to be able to be yourself, whether you're relaxing, whether you're working, whether you're creating, whether you're in the period where you're just getting inspired, because I find it incredibly important to be able to like gather inspiration before going into a project. And I also learned this the rough way, because in Mexico, there was a time where I was like, you know, like I was finishing a project and starting like on the next Monday, the next project, and I was doing all that.
Oh, wow.
One after the next and after the next. And I got to a point that I was like, I don't even know who I'm playing anymore. It was, you know, I was doing a show, I was doing a TV show during the day, and then at night I was doing a play. So I would like finish, and then Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, no, Fridays to Sundays, I would do theater at night.
Jeez.
And I ended up being a rock, like I didn't even know where I was or who I was anymore. So it really took me some time to regather myself and reconnect to, you know, with what I am and what I really want and what I think success is, you know, because that's another big one, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would like you to expand on that, because, you know, I think it's so important. I was just saying before that I used to be an accountant, and everyone kind of has experiences like that if they're like driven or they're passionate about their craft, where we're constantly jumping to the next thing. And as we said, it can take you away from being yourself. And then with time, you can just kind of lose yourself, and you know, you're going through the motions. And one of the key components, which is exactly what you said, is changing your view of success. Because especially as an actor, a lot of people have spoken about how if they're not an actor, then if they're not acting, then who are they? And in this industry, it is quite hard to work consistently. So congratulations to you for just having that many jobs at that stage. How did you, like, why did you decide to change and learn or go back to yourself? And did you have to redefine what success was for you?
Yeah, I definitely had to redefine what successful felt like for me, because you hear so many things about what success is, you know, the commercial part of success, to put it in a way. So success is having money, having a house, having a family, having work, being famous, being a celebrity, you know, all sorts of things. And somehow with time and being in this industry for so long, you start buying that, you know, that little, you know, that little definition, and almost like assuming it as yours. And it was only when I moved to LA, because in Mexico I was working pretty consistently, and then I moved to LA, and then suddenly there was nothing.
Oh.
It was like quiet times, you know, and birds chirping, like there was nothing.
I find that so surprising.
Yeah, well, because I had you know, I knew people in Mexico, and I kind of built my career there. And I had worked with so many directors, and I have known writers, and I was doing my own projects, and I was producing my own theater plays. And at the same time, so I had kind of like become very close to an industry that it was a lot smaller than Hollywood. And so I came here with a manager who's still my manager and who I adore forever.
Awesome.
But that's all I had. I had a manager who said, I believe in you, and we're gonna work hard for this. And I said, okay, thank you so much. And then nothing. You know, I had one audition every now and then, but nobody knew who I was. And they didn't really care if I was like, you know, an actor who had worked a lot in other countries, but they knew that I hadn't done anything in the US. So they were like, okay, we don't know who she is. So, and it really, at first I was very shocked, you know, because you kind of assume, you're like, where are my offers, guys? And then nothing. I'm not even an audition. I can't even dream of getting a job because I'm not even getting the audition. And it was like, wow, okay. Before I started like defining my own failure, just because nobody was calling me, I was like, okay, who am I? You know, who am I when I'm not acting? Who the hell am I? What do I like to do? So it was like refinding and like creating a new conception of who I am. So what do I like? What makes me excited? What makes my heart beat faster? And that's when I created Amai, the brand, which is like, it's a brand that I created. It's a plastic-free, sustainable cosmetic line for men and women, and that uses no plastic. And that was born out of this necessity and this urge I have to create more eco-friendly products for our planet and for ourselves. And that urge to live in a little bit more harmony with the universe, with the planet. And so I started developing that. And I started doing things that I normally didn't do, that I really loved, like going to listen to music and doing more yoga. And I learned how to run. Like I became like an obsessive runner.
Wow.
So, I kind of fell in love with new things, which I think is vital, right? To be surprised by life, no matter where you are at it. To be in awe with something so simple like running. I was like, okay, 5Ks, I can do 5Ks. All right, I did 10Ks today. It was hard, an hour running. That.
Wow. You're crazy. I can't do that.
Like those little challenges that they're so simple. They don't require anything but your own will. And so it took me a while. I'm not going to tell you that it was easy. It was really hard at times because I was with very little friends. Most of my friends lived in Mexico, and I was with my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, and I was kind of redefining myself in a relationship as well. So it was a time of a lot of learning. It was a very enriching and challenging emotionally sort of period, but it was a school, because I learned to relax. I learned how to stay still. I started practicing a lot of meditation, and I created this brand out of nowhere, really, with my friend who was also in postpartum. She was in the middle of a depression, and she was super overwhelmed by becoming a mom. She's a magnificent and wonderful woman who I love so much. She's an actor, really good friend of mine, and now my partner.
Amazing.
Aislinn Derbez, and we became friends, and we created this brand because she was basically at home overwhelmed with a newborn, and I was redefining what I wanted to do while the whole acting thing happened, because it was really frustrating to think that, okay, I can't do anything. I can't lift up the phone and call anybody because I don't know anybody. And you know how things work here in the US. So you have to wait for them to call you.
I know, it's so frustrating at times.
How would they call me? And it was like, so I have to trust the process. I am here, and I have an amazing manager. And in the meantime, I'm going to learn something new. And out of that was born Amai.
Well, sorry for cutting off. I was just going to say, you are a superhuman, because I wrote down about 20 points to go from when you are, inverted commas, killing it. It looks like the career is going so well. You got your family and support systems there. You're in a foreign place in a sense. The career is, inverted commas, not moving where you'd like it to be, or it's just not like it was before. Mentally, that would also be really tough because you're used to being really busy, and it's just overwhelming when you move even from a different suburb. But now we're moving to a different country. A lot of people, and especially I know that you were very well recognized in Mexico, a lot of people after a little while, no judgment, could just give up and say, you know what, this isn't working for me. But you still had what sounds like this foresight, this knowing, and this understanding that life would get better, but more so, you actually did something about it, i.e. like meditation, yoga, and creating this amazing brand. And if people like it, they can check it in the episode notes below. But not only just working on yourself, you actually created something which is good for the world. You went back to you and your mission, or your whatever you want to call it. I find that astonishing, and it's a rare trait to really want to push through those challenges and to actually grow and see it as a lesson. You said you went back to school. You need to teach me your secrets. This is rare.
No, Michael, but okay, I am doing like a really brief version.
Yes,
I had 3 tough days. I mean, we only picked up the good bits, but it was tough. It was tough. I could hear my inner voice going like, go back. What are you doing? And it was very tempting because I would get calls, I would get castings. In fact, I got cast in a movie in Mexico by auditioning, self-tape before self-tapes were what they are today. They were kind of like an odd thing to do. Right now, self-tapes, everybody knows what self-tapes
it's
are.
normal now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's totally normal. But at that time, I did a self-tape and I booked this role in Mexico, and I went back and I did it and I came back, like it was tempting. It was tempting to go back. It was like, but then I was like, no, I need to push a little further. I don't like easiness, which is why I didn't like relaxing, and I didn't like resting, and I didn't like just chilling. Like, we have this really funny story. One of my best friends in Mexico, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to say, I don't know, I'm going to Cuba. And he's like, on holidays, and he's like, please don't come back with a documentary. Just go and chill. It's like a joke now that I'm always working even when I'm relaxing, but I don't think that's good, Michael. I don't think that's good. I'm learning. I don't think that's good.
It's part of the process, but also it can be very hard to quiet the mind. And especially, it sounds like someone like you that who's just always had your mind on things and looking forward to the next thing. But to really slow your mind down, you mentioned yoga, running, meditation. So you've obviously gone on a spiritual journey, unless you're already spiritual before and you reactivated it. Can you tell me a bit about that? Because that mentally, to slow down the mind can be such a struggle for so many people.
Yeah, for sure. About the spirituality, well, I grew up in a household that was very esoteric at times. My dad taught me how to meditate when I was very young, and he always spoke about, the power of an intention and the power of willing things and the power of, all of that. And although we kind of grew up in a Catholic sort of context, we were never really Catholic practice. I mean, my dad is very spiritual in that regard, and he was very into Buddhism at some point and Hinduism at some other point. He's a searcher, so within that search, I was very intrigued along the way, and I kind of was always very curious about it. And Transcendental Meditation, my dad did for years and years and years, so I was very familiar with the concept and the idea and that thing of like, oh, when I'm bored, I'm going to meditate type of thing. But it became more of a habit, a habit to reconnect with who I really am, to reconnect with that sense of me, that sense of self, what's underneath everything that we've kind of built up, really underneath what's in it, what's in there. And it was only when there was enough quiet where I could really listen. Because what happens is that this industry, and also the hard thing is that this industry applauds and congratulates how busy you are all the time. So the more busy you are, the more successful you are, and the more, the more people look up to you, and they're like, oh, Mariana is really busy. She must be really hard to get. So let's try to get her. It's that weird, really strange competition, sort of marathon, insanely, exhausting, that somehow has become like the God, that we cherish and we pray to. We all want to be that busy, when actually I now feel very different. I have now learned to cherish and to really celebrate the moments when I'm just with my husband, doing nothing, or when I'm with my daughter, she's telling me a story about how lions live under the sea, and I'm just listening to that. I'm like, okay, and what do they do under the sea? I didn't know they did. Just having the time to ask questions, because when you're in such a hurry, when you're in such a, speed, it's hard to listen, it's hard to see, and it's hard to care, really, for you and others, because you're in this speed race. So coming to LA, although it was really hard at the beginning, has been a way of reconnecting in such a profound way that I find fascinating.
So do I. I think that's amazing. And it is very interesting that the dynamic of success, inverted commas, is being busy. And it's kind of like, I look at someone that, they're happy, they're fulfilled, they can build, and they're still, obviously earning money to live. Like, that is success. What you just said is being able to appreciate and enjoy the moments with your family. And you're still working and doing all of that stuff. Success isn't purely just about the job that you do. It's how you feel about yourself, your relationships, and all of that. So it sounds like that's kind of rechanged you've done the work to rechange your definition of what success is. It's not purely, what am I doing next in terms of your career? Am I hearing that right?
You absolutely are. And that you become a slave of your own expectations and desires and speed. So it's almost like you put yourself in jail, which is really crazy.
Interesting.
You lock yourself in and you throw the keys and you're like, oh, there you go. You're locked in. Bye. And you do it to yourself. And it's so weird when I was kind of redefining the idea of success, because at some point I was like, okay, being successful is, to work with the people I admire. I want to work with, I don't know, Olivia Colman, just to say somebody who I really love and admire. And yes, I do want to work with her. Olivia, if you're watching, I do want to work with you. I do want to work with all those people, but I am not going to define success. That's not going to mean success to me. I mean, I think for me, success is to keep learning and to be excited about it, to keep learning happily and joyfully, to be like that thirst that I have today for learning new stuff. For me, that's success. And for me, success is also the ability, like, not to be famous, not necessarily to be famous. Then again, if I get super famous or if I win loads of statues, golden, then that's great. That's a consequence. But that is, for me, that's not the definition of success anymore. Success is that maybe building a good reputation, right? Like maybe instead of becoming famous, maybe having the reputation amongst my friends and co-workers where, like, people can say, hey, I would really like to work again with you because it was nice. You weren't a nightmare. Like so many people are.
That is, yeah, I've heard that as well, which is scary.
For me, that's success, to be able to go up, do a project with somebody, and by the end of it, that person looking at my eyes and saying, like, I would love to work with you again. That was a pleasure. For me, that's, I'll work with Marianna. She does the work, but she's also a pleasant human to be around, obviously some sort of like financial stability. And it doesn't mean like earning millions and millions and millions. It means that I can have a relaxed living doing my craft. And that's already success to me,
Oh, I love that. There's a layered definition of success because, as we said, it's not just the one thing and being busy. It's so many other things. It's how you feel about yourself and 1,000 times more. And I also find that so interesting because I know you're being very modest. In Mexico, you are very well known. And I don't remember the exact quote, but I wrote it down that you're on a show, I can't remember the name, where someone told you that you were going to be like the next big thing and that this is it. And, we hear stories about that. Anyway, long story short, you heard that and it can get to any human. It's natural. And you quickly realize that it wasn't going to make you the superstar of the world and be the best thing in the world. And that would have been a bit of an ego hit, especially when you think this show or you are going to be the greatest thing in the world. And then you realize you are the greatest human in the world, but not in that regard. How did you deal with the ego side of that, of people blowing steam up your ass and all of that stuff in this industry? Because that can be quite prevalent.
Oh my God. Yeah, they love doing that. And I think of like, now this is it, right? like my mom, and my mom is brilliant and she's so matter of fact, and I love her because she's totally the opposite to my dad. My dad is like stars, da da da, the the cosmology of your being, and then my mom is a mathematician. Like she's 2 + 2 = 4. She's
Interesting mix.
pragmatic.
It's normally the other way around.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. My dad did the cooking. My mom did other things. Like my house was, and I remember my mom was like, "Okay, now this is it, right? Like like this is the job that is going to send you to stardom." And I said, "No, nothing is it. Everything is it. Everything is another step towards." I really love this. I heard it once, that it's not up here. It's just it's a line. Nothing is more important. It's not like you're going up a ladder where up is good and down is shit, or down is bad. It's kind of like a sequence of movements that will, as long as you keep moving, you're heading towards somewhere. But what you're doing is like you're actually trying to head towards yourself.
Yep.
It's not I don't know, I don't feel like I'm going up the sky with a job, but I am learning. I'm learning, continuously learning. I'm finding new people along the way, and just paving my life, and hopefully paying more and more attention to detail, and being able to enjoy the more subtle things, and being able to leave a little a little good mark behind me, so that the next generations, I can leave the planet a little better. If not better, at least the same as I found it, and not worse, So yeah, those things about the ego can be devastating, because again, it's kind of fantasizing over the idea that something is going to happen and then you're going to become the star. That also kind of fades away as well. Those people that suddenly just go into stardom because of one project, it gets to a point that people get bored and there isn't anything else so they get
like time passes as well.
Time passes, and this career is so non-substantial. It's sort of like it's magical in that regard, and such a mystery still to me. So when people now, that time when they were like, okay, after this, you're never going to stop working. This is it. Amazing. And then nothing happened. Like literally for months, nothing happened. And I was like, oh. And then you start thinking the opposite. You're like, I was horrible in the show. I was horrible. They lied to me. I didn't get to the place where I needed to be. I didn't fill up the expectations. And then you start beating yourself because the expectations were so high. So it's such a mind game that you really have to be able to, what I've done now is not to listen that much, the good or the bad. Just, I did what I thought I was able to do, and learn from what I did, and watch it and be like, oh, maybe here's this or whatever, but not killing myself in the way, and not really believing the sweetest of comments or the most sour of comments, because there's always stuff that is painful to hear, and there's always stuff that is incredibly delicious to hear. You're like, tell me more. We all want it. Tell me more. But then at the same time, okay, you receive it, you say thank you, and then you understand that that's a point of view, and it's nothing but their reality, and that's beautiful. If their reality has something beautiful to say about you or your craft, then that's beautiful. But if it has something horrible to say, then that's okay too, it's their reality, not yours. So yeah, I've learned how to be not hard, but detached in a way.
Yeah. The art of detachment.
And that it comes from, everybody sees the world according to their own reality, and if they like it or not has to do with their own reality and their own concepts, and not necessarily to do with you.
It's also very interesting as well. Like everyone's perception, as you said, is completely different. And I've used this example a lot, but you and me can see a situation and have completely different insights into what happened. And, just being in the nature of your industry and being on screen, you would have received all types of comments, but to go back and realize that it's purely just what they're going through and it's not you. Because it's just like one of my friends, for example, Darren Levy, I'll plug him. He's a Uber driver that records his trips with their permission, and he's doing really well and he gets a lot of views. And it's so interesting. Sometimes I read the comments because we like play a joke where we read him the bad ones because he doesn't care anymore. And it's just so funny how people just they can see the same thing and then someone will just see it differently. And he had to realize that that's just their opinion. It's not who I am. And that can be really hard, especially when you've done all the things that you're doing. And you're also in this amazing Disney show, which is coming up, which will also, I'm actually, while we're on that, that's also interesting. Now that you've had this great ego training and now you're in this big Disney show, that will keep you a lot more maybe accountable or be able to deal with it as well. Because I'm sure there's a lot happening, whether it's press, the show, fans, just the nature of being in a show like that. You'll be a lot more equipped to deal with it.
Yeah, it's beautiful to be able to be in a show where, I mean, it came out already. It's been out for 3 weeks, I think. And it's on Disney Plus US. I hope it gets to Australia really soon. It's such a fun show.
We've got a large audience where Australia is not even in the top whatever, so people around the world can watch it. And it's called Ultraviolet and Black Scorpion, just in case. Correct.
And I think there's some episodes on YouTube already, and some of them have like 2 million views.
Wow.
The ego. What was it again?
Or just like you've dealt with, you've had this ego training and you've been on amazing shows, and then you've had to kind of deal with it, and now you're back on another enormous show. I'm sure you'll be a lot more equipped to deal with that. And Disney is a beast. There are so many moving parts. There's so much things happening. You also have crazy fans. You have the whole works. But I'm sure that, it's been out for a while, a few weeks, but I'm sure that you have a much nicer relationship with the inverted commas, the fame.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I am just very happy to be in a show that speaks very highly of Latino families, that is changing the narrative of Latinos here in the US from a very solid base, which is Disney Channel, a channel that gets to everybody's house, and that so many people watch. So to be able to be in so many houses at the same time, showing a family that it's kind of like, it's Mexican American, but also that portrays women in a position of power. My character is not only the mother, but is also the principal of the school, and is a woman who is like a workaholic, so a little bit like me. That is right here. And the dad, who is not, he's not a drug dealer, he's a nurse, so he's a caretaker. And the brother, who is the superhero, and my brother, who is a superhero, and my daughter, who is a girl and who is the lead of the show, who is also a superhero. I find it really refreshing and an honor to be part of a story which portrays a Latino family in such a good light, because we are also that. We're also joyful people, hard workers, funny, so many other things that have not yet been portrayed enough times on TV and film.
Agreed. Just to pick the stereotype, like you said, a drug deal. It's such a shame that seems to be the stereotypical role.
Yeah.
But to show everyone it's a comedy, right? So to just show that everyone's a normal human. I'm surprised we still have to talk about this in the sense of
we are normal people. We don't necessarily play mariachis all day. You know what I mean? Like we don't wear sombreros all day. Like
you don't.
And I love the fact, and I know it's crazy we even have to talk about it, right? But it is true. And when you see the show, it's just a family touching upon universal themes like belonging and wanting to be better and understanding. Well, the main character, Violet, my daughter, touches a lot about recognition, like, oh, I want to do good, but I want to be recognized for it. And the whole social media thing. And, it touches upon themes that are current, that are important. And then you can see that they're Mexican American. but that's not what we talk about. We don't go around like, hey, yes, we're Latino. How does it feel to be you, Latino?
Yeah.
How, you know, it's just a part. We're just people that happen to have that background, which is beautifully and so subtly sort of like there all the time in the background, but it's not in your face. You know, there's nothing like, I don't wear, you know, flowers on my hair and
That's
and red
good.
lips all day long and and dance salsa across it. You know what I do. She's a principal and she dresses like a, you know what I mean? Like, and I love that. I love how subtle and how detailed and how authentic they've portrayed this Rodriguez family.
That is beautiful to hear, and it sounds absolutely hilarious. I also found this really intriguing. I heard this elsewhere, where you know, typically as an actor, when you're in, like, you're desperate or you really want a job, and I'm sure you really wanted this as well. But when you walk in there and you smell, they can smell that you really want this. You had a really interesting perspective. I believe you just had your child or something like that. And although you really wanted it, don't get me wrong, you were detached because you knew you could go back to your family. And that must have definitely have helped.
Massively, massively, so much so. Because for me, that audition of getting the job, although it was, I mean, that's something that I really, really wanted, wasn't what's going to define me at that point. I wasn't going to die if I didn't get it. And I wasn't going to go into a hole and cry forever. I needed to go back to my daughter who was 6 months and I needed to feed her. I was still breastfeeding. So I remember when we had these long producer sessions at Disney and I was very close to getting the job. It was down to, I don't know, 3, 4 of us to play the mom, and we were playing with different kids because I needed to cast the mom and the daughter first. And we were kind of like, you know, they mix you and they go like, okay, now we want to see Marianna with Scarlett.
Oh, that's crazy.
And we improvise. And then they're like, thank you, you can wait outside. And then they call you again. And they're like, okay, now Marianna with Lucy. And then they play. And that's how it goes for hours. And I remember thinking, I really need to go home to see my daughter. You know, my boobs were huge. And I was like, I need to pump, like, you know, so it didn't feel like my life depended on this job. And I really think that helped because that allowed me to play, that allowed me to have fun, that allowed me to actually show fearlessly what I had to offer. And then when I walked out, I was like, bye, thank you so much. Thank you. It was great playing with you. Turn around and I was like, I'm going home. And I was already so excited about going home, you know? And I think that was a trick. I was like, if I only knew this before. It really helped. It really, really, really helped. I don't know if it was my mind that I wasn't, you know, punishing myself on the way back saying, why didn't you do it this way? He said good instead of very good. He probably didn't really like that much. You know, all those crazy stuff that we say to each other, to ourselves, sorry. I was already like, okay, that was oh my God, that was long. It was fun. I really liked that scene. And then off I went thinking about my daughter, what were we going to do? Are we going to go to the park? You know, totally different mind frame because my success at that point was raising this little baby and offering the best I could to this little baby that I am responsible for. And I did what I had to do in that room and I had fun and I whatever, but that was the end of it. And then.
Oh, okay. That is so beautiful to hear. Cause you know, I'd be guilty of this. You're auditioning for a show like this and you'd just be so excited and there'd be so much attachment. I want to be on this Disney show, but you just had something else. And I think that's so important. And I know we've spoken about this, but like having hobbies, family, all of that helps. And it's a huge credit to you. I'm sure you also I heard this as well on another podcast, and I'm sure you got some of these amazing traits from your grandmother. And you mentioned the word fearlessly just a moment ago. And you said your grandmother was a great inspiration for you. And she showed you how to be fearless. I'd love you. I know we could talk about this for ages, but I'd love you to tell me a little bit about your grandmother and what she taught you.
She was the most awesome person in the planet. And I still feel so lucky to have had her as a grandmother. She was nothing like a grandma, like, you know, how you imagine grandmas, like tiny and cute. And she was tall, not cute at all. She didn't want us to call her grandma. She was like, call me by my name. I don't want to, because she was like, the word grandma has such a connotation. I don't want any of that. And we're like, okay. So we called her Regia, her name. And she was just a very unique, authentic human. She was ruled by her own sense of self. That, I guess that's a way of describing her. She was she was very much into literature and poetry, and she was a writer herself. She wrote 3 novels.
Oh, wow.
That she said none of them, I mean, she said that the last one wasn't based on her own story, but it was. Like, we all knew that that was her way of communicating with the world. She wrote one about her mother, and then one about her childhood, and then one about her adulthood. And the way she would write was so beautiful. And I remember when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time with her and my brother Mario, and she would teach us poems, and then she would take us to her friend's house and we would recite them. We're like 3 and 5, and we were already like reciting Rubén Darío or Aquiles Nazoa, which is like a poet, a Venezuelan poet. And we loved it, and we loved the spectacle of it, and we will do dancing and, you know, reciting and with her. So she really nourished my creativity. There was a chest thing in her house full of like all sorts of things, like painting stuff, toys, watercolors, pencils, brushes. You know, it was kind of like a magical place to go to her house and spend time in her house. So I always thought of her. You know, I remember once when someone said something about a man not being able to dance ballet, and she said, why not? You know, like she would, and I heard that and I was like, yeah, why not? You know, she would, at a very, almost like it felt like she was born in the wrong age. Oh. Definitely. She was definitely a revolutionary within her generation. And if she was born, you know, same year as me or close to me, we would have been besties for sure. Because she was also very, she liked to push buttons. She liked to push society, and she liked to push conventionalities. Although she was very conventional in so many ways, she would say things like, I am ready to die now. Like, it's been a long time now. And then somebody said to her, I think my mom or I did, I can't remember, do you really want to die? And she was like, no, I say it because it's kind of embarrassing to kind of be alive for so long, but nobody wants to die. You know, like she would say things like that. And
challenging
concepts and ideas of, you know, she would never repeat something without thinking about it before. And that was beautiful. Her mind was brilliant. I miss her every day.
Let's say that again.
I miss her every day, even now, because she was such a great character.
She sounds inspirational, and also to allow a child to play and have fun, go back to use their imagination, which I'm sure you carry on in your day. And even as an actor, I'm sure that probably propelled you to be the great actor that you are as well, and give you confidence to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
I find also your life just inspirational, and just with the lessons and how you see the world is so beautiful. And I wish everyone could see the world through your lens. And as I was saying, it's very unique. And I know that you got, I think, a scholarship to Swaziland. I think the name's changed, but it's somewhere in Africa. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience of how you even found the program or what it did for you?
Yeah, I went to a little place in Southern Africa called Eswatini now. It borders South Africa and Mozambique, and it's tiny. It's one of the lasting monarchies in Africa still, but an incredible place. I found out about the program because my mom's aunt knew about it really well. And sort of like growing up, I always heard that one of my cousins, like my third cousin, went to one of their schools in Wales.
Oh.
So yeah, they had, at the point when I was applying for the scholarship, they had 9 schools around the world. Now they have like 15 or 16. But at that point, I grew up kind of hearing about it. And when it got to the point where I was able to apply, I really wanted to do it. I don't know why, but I always, for me, it was really like, that's, I'm gonna study out, elsewhere. I always sort of like had that very clear in my mind, maybe because my dad did, and my mom also traveled a lot. So I don't know, it was something that I didn't even question ever. I don't, also because I had such an urge to get to know more. This learning thing has been,
I love it.
Yeah, has been a vein that's been very much alive ever since I remember. And so I applied. You were able to apply when you were 15 or 16. And I applied when I was 16 or 17. And I applied when I was 16. And it was a very long process. You first write an exam, and then you go to a place where they check your abilities to, your social abilities and your problem solving capacities, and then you finally go to an interview. And then in the interview, you have a panel of psychologists, and they want to find out more about you, like really you and your mental state. And because of course you go from living with your family to moving to a school, and basically it's a boarding school, in my case really far away from home, at least 3 planes away from home, and very academically challenging. It was very, everybody in that school was there because of a scholarship. So you have highly intelligent people there. I felt like I was a dummy.
Really?
Yeah, because imagine you're there with people that have solved, physics, problems, and that the way they think is very unusual, and they're kind of geniuses in so many ways. So, and I was always a nerd, like very nerdy in school, and I loved school. I'm one of those odd actors that actually loved school, because normally actors hated school and they didn't find themselves there. I loved school. I love learning. So I loved, and I am very organized in that way. I like going to classes, I like that conventional sort of learning. And yeah, so I got to that school and I was like, oh my God, I have so much to learn. This is crazy. I felt very raw, very vulnerable, and very, sometimes, I don't want to use such a strong word, but I felt a little non-capable, like short in so many things. And I was like, okay, I need to expand myself. And going there was such a gift, because I was able to really, like, my mind was this big and it suddenly went.
Oh, wow.
Imagine, like, I was living in a corridor, like the girls' side, we had girls' side and boys' side. The girls' side on my corridor, we had these little rooms called cubies, and next to me was a Russian girl, and next to her was one of my best friends who was from France, and then the next one was from Namibia, and then the one across was from Zimbabwe. So suddenly the world becomes really small, because someone from everywhere. Angola wasn't anywhere weird anymore, because I had a friend from there. So everything had context, and the world became reachable and accessible, and Norway didn't feel so far anymore. One of my best friends was from Norway. So I don't know, like, suddenly you realize that we are much more similar than what we think we are.
Isn't that awesome though? Because everyone lives in their own bubble. And first of all, you got the scholarship, so you are and were just as capable as everyone there. But I get what you're saying when you're in a room full of geniuses. But how awesome would that experience be, where you've got such a diverse cast of thinkers, not even people, just thinkers, and that would change your entire worldview. Also probably give you the confidence to realize that you can actually act. If you can do something like that as a young child, be picked with these amazing people, I just find it so interesting. What was the goal of this program? Like, they weren't going to get like kids like rule the world, like I don't know if you've seen the Alex Rider series where they get the top people to like take over the world. Like, this is for good. So what was the purpose of this program?
Well, United World College, the program, was at that point, the president was Nelson Mandela. And
my family's South African, so they love him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the Queen Noor from Jordan. And the reason why these schools came about was to kind of have a hub of young people that were taught exactly that we're much more similar than what we think, that it doesn't matter what our religions are and our beliefs, our belief system, our background, we can always sort of like combine ideas and do good for the world and for humanity, which is what we are. It was like the purpose of the schools was to create leaders of the world who didn't really necessarily rule themselves through boundaries like geographic boundaries or political stance, but instead for like the humanity that is behind and belongs to all of us and behind each one of us. So that was the idea of the school, and that's why there were people from everywhere, and that's why it didn't matter your religion and your sexual orientation or your political belief. There was a strong sense of like, we can all share a space together. There is a world in which we can share a space together and respect each other's beliefs and understand that our differences is what make us really strong. So that was kind of like the heartbeat of the school. And of course, and people say to me like, so isn't it weird to travel from what? The thing is, like, after you've been there and you were kind of in such a positive way, brainwashed that way.
Yep.
Going to London was like, okay, I'm going to go and see a lot of English people and meet, great, amazing humans. But I'm not going to feel weird because I know I belong to the world. I don't belong to my little country anymore. I am part of you humans. And when you kind of break that idea of, I'm not really into nationalism and patriotism. It's not my deed. It's not my shabang. And I respect people who feel very identified and they feel like their sense of belonging has all to do with the country where they were born. That's great. But I don't feel that way, because I feel that the earth, the trees don't go like, I am Colombian. They're just
Team human. Or team world.
Yeah, I take Cuban. Yeah. Or animals cross, boundaries, cross countries without much more ruled by, the weather or, the humidity or, the weather conditions, and not this kind of sense of divisions that we've created throughout history, that the only thing it's done is really profoundly harmed us, I feel.
That is such okay. There's so much real and perceived division in this world, and to learn about just at a young age, which every young person believes that, but then we go into the world and, you mentioned belief systems, and then just to realize that everyone's equal. Oh, if the whole world had a bit of that flavor or a bit of that taste, the entire world would change. And I know we won't have time to talk about it, but just even going from that experience, you go to the UK and you start your own theatre company, and that's where the acting journey somewhat begins. Something like that will give you confidence to realize that it doesn't matter who they are. You're just as capable as the other person. This program sounds amazing. I'm going to look into it more. Before we go, we're going to do a quick rapid fire segment to wrap up the podcast. So the first thing that springs to mind, but you can take your time to think about it if you need.
Okay. So you're going to ask me questions?
Yeah. quick rapid fire if you're
Okay.
ready.
Oh my God. Okay. Fire.
What are you most proud of?
Oh, what am I most proud of? Having the ability to adapt to so many circumstances. I have a really strong ability to adapt and make whatever with what I have. So that
is
I have
great.
such a survivor. I am such a survivor, sort of like nature, for good or for bad. But I think it saved me so many times. Like I can adapt. I have a very high ability to adapt.
Oh, okay. We're going to have to do a part 2 because that sounds amazing. What would you do if you knew you could not fail?
What would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? I would allow myself to be more. I would probably in when I'm on set, I would be more daring. Sometimes I hold back because I'm like, oh no, this is too much. Maybe this is totally off tune. Da-da-da. So I would probably go on really strange places more often.
Oh, okay. I got so. I won't comment on them because I want to derail them. What puts you in a positive mindset when things aren't going great?
Meditation.
And do you have a specific type of meditation? I know you mentioned your dad had a version.
Yeah, I do. Well, I do several ones. I do something that it's called Akashic Meditation, which has to do with opening your Akashic records, but that's a whole different thing. So I do that, and I also do one that has to do with trying to connect with, the source, trying to connect with what we call the source of life, the light of the universe.
Oh God. Okay. Once again, I've got so, especially the Akashic record ones. Okay. If you could gain
I'm gonna be in Bali soon, so we could do another.
Oh, we can do a meditation. Yep, that sounds great. We'll lock it in.
Okay.
If you could gain any skill in the world, which one would it be?
Playing the piano, like masterfully.
Can you play?
I can play, but I can play meh. If I could do a skill, like it would be like, those concerts, and I would, nonstop, and I would be able to be like, this Venezuelan pianist Montero that does a lot of improvisation, and she moves from Venezuelan folklore music to jazz to that, and then she goes into Debussy, and that would be
The goal, the dream.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you have a certain philosophy on life that you follow? Sounds like you got many.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I have many, but let's say in this industry, just to kind of like make it smaller, do the work. Don't pretend to do the work. Don't talk about doing the work. Just do the work. Like, just do it. Be kind to yourself and to other people. I know it's really hard to be kind to yourself sometimes, but be kind, and don't let other people's opinion of you define your own opinion of yourself.
Beautiful. If money wasn't a factor, what would you be doing differently?
Oh my God. How are these quick questions? I mean,
yeah, I know. We could speak about them for hours.
Questions. If money wasn't a problem, what would I be doing? Oh my God. I would probably, money was never for me an objective. So, when I was studying that I had to do like 9 jobs in London because it's so expensive, I was doing, if money wasn't a problem then, I would have just been doing my theater company and that's it, but it wasn't enough. I wouldn't be able to eat if I was just doing theater back in London, back in the day. But right now, fortunately, I got an incredible job, and I'm able to live with doing my craft, which I think I feel so lucky, so lucky and so grateful for it. But maybe what I would do is like I would take, a year off and go to Africa and go see, go to Jane Goodall's Institute. She's in Tanzania, and learn about orangutans and monkeys and conservation. And I would just dedicate a whole year to conservation and to learn more about ways to protect the planet. That's what I would do.
Oh, you're right. This doesn't do justice to your answers as well in the short format. You probably got this one a lot. If you could have any superhero power, what would it be and why?
Being able to clean the earth and replant trees. And I know this is very geeky and not what people want to hear. They're like, I want to spill fire. No, but I want to be able to somehow bring the harmony and sort of like, I think the earth, of course, is able to bring its own harmony for sure. But I wish I could just repair some of the mess we as society have done to the planet. Because although the planet has its own processes, definitely I don't think part of the process is to have more plastic than fish in the sea. I don't think that's part of the plan. So I would find a way to like clean the earth from all the stuff that we've done to it, and somehow, bring the biodiversity that we've sort of eliminated and taken away, and just the way we've treated this beautiful blue dot on the space. I think I would try to bring some justice to that.
Beautiful answer. I've never received an answer like that out of, this is probably 170 podcasts. So I love the way that you think, and you have to play like a Gaia role in your next project.
Right? That's what I want. That's what I want. I don't know if it's a superhero but yeah, that would be a mega dream.
We're putting it out to the universe. So that's coming the end. Yes. Excellent. We've already sent it out there. So I look forward to talking to you about that next time.
Oh my God.
It'd be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Last two, or maybe three. This one, let's see if we can do it in this format. Biggest hurdle and how did you overcome it?
Oh, they're not easy questions, Michael. Biggest hurdle in my career or my life in general?
In general.
I think having people tell you, biggest hurdle. Oh, somehow my life has been all beautiful all this time today. I don't remember anything. I would say coming to LA was a huge one, emotionally, personally, and also professionally. That was a big thing. When my grandma passed, that was huge. I almost felt like I lost my mentor, and it was so hard to walk out of that. It took me like a year to really find my feet. So, and then I kind of learned the hard way that love was not about holding back, but about letting go, and I was so attached to every memory, and I wanted to write everything, and I was obsessed with collecting the pictures and sort of like framing the moment. She didn't like to have pictures taken of her, so I don't have that many, and my mom was not very thorough with the whole picture situation, so I have very few of her, and then few pictures of her, and we wrote letters to each other throughout all of our lives. So once this liquid sort of like spilled over one of my letters, and and I became so obsessed trying to rewrite. I mean, I couldn't see what it said, but I was like I was holding on to things that were hers, and it took me a long time to understand that what her and I had, like the love that we felt for each other, was beyond any letter. The letters were just the little, the salt over a whole meal. I mean, it didn't matter. The letters didn't matter, because the letters were already read several times. So yeah, that was a big hurdle for me, and a beautiful learning afterwards.
Oh, I love your positive outlook and mentality. This might be a bit weird to some, but I think not with you. I'm staying in my grandparents' place, and my grandma passed away a few months ago. And me and my girlfriend were just lying in bed, and my phone turned on with the video of her. And I know, and this happened last night. There's no way I didn't have the video uploaded. It went into my other Instagram account and opened up the video, and we're like, whoa, it was so profound. And so I resonate with you with your grandmother being a badass, but in a cool way.
Wow. Those are the little whispers of the universe, I believe. And those are the moments where that you guys are connected in a much more profound way than just this plane. That I believe we have many lives simultaneously, and we are alive in so many ways. Not only so when we go to sleep, we have other beings that are also ours, that are interacting with those people who have passed and who have actually mean a lot to us. I don't know what your relationship, you and your grandma, was like, but I mean, I assume that it was special.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, it's really cool, and I know that it's someone that I could share it with as well. Amazing. Okay, last two. If you could go back to a time when you were first starting out, what advice would you give yourself, and why?
I'd say, I would say to myself, sometimes I was so scared to dream big because I didn't want to fail in the dream. I didn't want to not get the dream. So I would say to myself, allow yourself to dream huge, not big, huge. Just go for it. Because if you cannot imagine it, you cannot become it. So only when you can actually believe it for real, and really truly understand that your reality is just a moment, but actually what you're building on is your future. And that if right now you feel successful and you feel fulfilled and you feel that you deserve, you will get it, you will get there. I mean, doing the work and all of that. But I would say to, young Marianna, would be like, just go for it, dream. Allow yourself to dream humongously big. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. I would love to hear that as well. Is there any advice you want to give people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Just do it. Just do it. One thing I learned doing my company, was that I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea, zero. I had never done a business before. I never went to business school. I had no idea what online shopping was. I mean, I used to buy things online, but I didn't know what Shopify was. I had no idea. And I learned it along the way, and that is okay, that is okay. Like, I feel that when you have the desire, the very strong desire, sometimes we get caught up with, no, but I need to first take a course on how to switch on the computer to be able to, and then I need to take a course on how. We've been taught that, things have to be one way only. And the reality of things is like, no, that you can learn along the way. And I learned, I didn't know anything about cosmetics before. I didn't know anything about handmade shampoos or conditioners. And I've learned a lot. And also you surround yourself with people that know and that can teach you and that you can do, team up with. And then you do it. And then you do it, because I think the best way of learning is doing it. Yep. It's the best way.
Agreed. I could speak to you for ages. Before we go, before I ask how people can follow you, watch everything, buy all your amazing products, what is the one question I should have asked you?
Oh my God, Michael. Not that one. What is one question you should have asked me? No, I think you hit them all. I think it's been a beautiful, wonderful, very authentic interview and very personal. Well, I really like that.
Thank you. That warms my heart. There's a very kind thing of you to say. Before we go, how can people follow you, keep up to date with you, and all of that cool stuff?
I have Facebook, but never use it. But I have Instagram, and it is at Marianna Burelli, MariaNNA, and then Burelli is with a double L. And yeah, I post, I do stuff there. And every now and then, articles and stuff. I do stuff on Twitter as well. And yeah, but Instagram is my social medias. That's one is my favorite. That's the one that I use the most.
I'll upload everything in the episode notes, including your amazing business, so people can check it out as well. Thank you. I love you. You are amazing. You have the best mentality and overview of the world. We could all do with a bit of this positive, forward-thinking flavor. So I really appreciate your time, and thanks for chatting with me.
Thank you so much, Michael. It was such a pleasure. And one question you should have asked: when are we doing part 2?
We're locking it in. That's a legally binding contract. We're going to do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
I love Marianna's take on dreaming, not only big, but huge. She explains that we have to believe in our vision, see it, smell it, believe in it, see every angle of it, as this can propel us in the right direction. As she outlines, the first step is believing. Once you do that, the rest is easier. Feeling is the catalyst towards success. She beautifully addresses how she would have told her younger self, just go for it. Dream. Allow yourself to dream humongously big. So I'll leave you with this amazing quote by Greg Braden. Beliefs and the feelings that we have about them are the language that speaks to the quantum stuff that makes our reality.
Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.